Hello, beautiful souls, gay souls, that is. This is Angelo here, founder of the Big Gay Family Social Program. If you are single and frustrated and you lost all the hope, just remember that there are very smart gay men out there who have solutions to your dating challenges. Inside Big Gay Family, we have a commitment-based dating process where you are guaranteed to have 100% third dates, and most of the introductions go beyond 3 months. It's a ridiculously powerful social program, so you don't have to be frustrated anymore. Join us. Visit the website at biggayfamily.com. Today, we're going to cover a very important topic called ghosting. I'd like to teach you about the psychology of it, because you have to understand that ghosting is an outcome of a massive insecurity that is now spreading like wildfire everywhere. In simple terms, ghosting is fear of human interaction. And you ask yourself the question, wait a second, if people want to date, doesn't that mean they're not afraid of human interaction? Wouldn't that mean that if you want to date someone, that you actually desire to talk to them as soon as possible, as often as possible, right away, and meet them, fall in love with them? Well, that is reason and that is logic. But of course, when we talk about human irrationality, often reason and logic are not there. So yes, typically when you want to date somebody, you create a profile on a dating website, someone likes it, respond to you, and he responds to you, and then you meet them right away, and then 2 weeks later, you say, I love you. Or 3 weeks later, you say, I love you, and then you are boyfriends, and then the rest is history. That should be the typical way of how dating progresses. But we don't have that anymore. Anywhere in the whole world, society has radically changed psychologically. I should also add that amongst the younger gay population or younger LGBT population, you have ghosting more common than in the older population, even though ghosting is pretty much everywhere, but it's much less with the older ones because they still remember what it's like to date the normal way. The younger generation is completely addicted to their cell phones, to their iPhones, staring and glaring at the screens. They are afraid of the human connection. They literally have fear of human conversation. This is not the same as fear of intimacy. Fear of intimacy is a fear of going deeper after you already have gotten to know somebody. Ghosting happens when someone is afraid of calling somebody or interacting with somebody or having a human connection. We are talking about a psychological insecurity that will prevent every human connection from happening. It's the kind of insecurity that you can't see it when you look at a person, but it's there and you are probably dealing with it on a regular basis, especially if you want younger men or younger people. They are so used to clicking on their phones, they are so used to glaring at their screens. To them, the fear of intimacy begins with first contact, while typically fear of intimacy should begin after you've known somebody, say, for 10 interactions. Now, we have society where human beings desire human connection, but are not ready to do it, not capable of producing it, because on the inside, they have emotional blockages that produce fear for human interaction or fear of human interaction, which is something that 10 years ago, nobody saw. There was no such thing 10 years ago called ghosting. Ghosting is a modern theme that started maybe 5 years ago with more and more of the hookup apps dominating, and all the people with social anxieties are spreading the concept of ghosting and conditioning other people that they say they're going to show up, but they don't show up. They ghost you because they are afraid of hearing your voice. I know this is crazy, but yes, they are afraid of a real human interaction. And underneath that are a ton of social anxieties, a lot of self-esteem issues, and then, of course, lack of practice. Remember, if someone is glued to the screen, to the iPhone, they're going to be incapacitated for human interaction because they've never had it. On top of that, most parents these days, they don't really care about their kids, so there is no transfer of knowledge about relationships from parents to their teenagers and to the young adults. They are consuming the world through their iPhones, they're consuming the world through social media, and that means that they don't know how to behave in front of another person. Not only are they going to ghost you, but let's say that there will be some kind of miracle and he will show up and you'll want to get to know the person, then even though you lack out at that moment, later down the line, it's going to be impossible to connect to that person because the insecurities are so profound and lack of emotional intelligence is so profound that simply nothing is possible with those human beings. And ghosting is the outcome of social retardation. There is absence of human contact with that person for a long time, and they simply don't know how to behave in front of another person. There's a lot more to this, but this is enough for you to understand the psychology of it. The world has changed radically. Men under the age of 40 are unlikely to have what it takes to have normal relationships, normal connections. They are going to desire to be in a relationship, but they have all kinds of roadblocks, all kinds of points of resistance, all kinds of blockages, emotional, psychological. They have not had a relationship ever in their lives that was normal, and so they are scared of it. They desire the parenting and the fuzziness and the sex, but when you want to have a normal conversation, when you want to go on a date, to the movies, for lunch, invite him for coffee or tea, or have a walk together, they simply freak out. They don't know how to have a conversation. They don't know how to create the kind of conversation that establishes a connection. They only can behave in a violent or volatile way through sex or through something ridiculously awkward and strange. But when it comes to something normal, they simply are completely lost. It's a very different world, my friends. It's a scary world because something that we all take for granted, which is the desire for love, we take it for granted. We imagine that when someone wants to date, that they are ready to date, that they are willing to go out of the comfort zone. They want to meet you. They want to connect you. But then the moment all the blockages come in, what's happening? Trauma is happening. And that's why ghosting and all the younger people these days, they traumatize the older ones. They traumatize each other. And it's a toxic vortex out of which it's very difficult to come out of without mental injury to your mental health. And that's why toxicity and trauma cycle is the vortex inside of which everybody is spinning at this time in the history of humanity, dating, and relationships. You can't sustain it for long. It will toxify you. It will cause depression and anxieties for everyone. And that's why I recommend to all of you who still have some mental health left over in your life, stay away from the trashy places, from the hookup places. You're going to be sucked into depression, into anxieties. And instead of all of that, join a professionally managed social program where absolutely never you're going to be ghosted. Never, ever. And if someone does do anything like that, they get kicked out immediately. And that's why we don't have it, ever. And we have a very beautiful process that step by step introduces people to one another. in a way that is very gentle, in a way that is super loving and caring. And it's a little baby step at the time, so that even if people have some kind of insecurities, even if they have hurt and trauma and pain and wounding from previous breakups and rejections, even they can sustain that kind of process, because we build it knowing that most people today have a lot of baggage. And so I completely understand that there's no perfectly healthy gay man out there. Most of us, if not all of us, have been hurt, damaged, rejected, betrayed. We have been exposed to a lot of trauma and a lot of hurt. And so we have to have a very unique, loving, caring, baby step at a time kind of process that very gently, very lovingly connects people to one another. And we have that process. We've built it over the past 12 years, and it's very, very successful. And it has a ton of innovation, a lot of sociology and psychology that has been put into the process, so that it is a very scientific and very innovative process that works for most gay men who are educated and who seek authentic connections. So don't put yourself out there into that toxic vortex of ghosting, rejections, drug addictions, emotional abuse, poor communication, narcissism, all kinds of waste of time. You don't have to be there anymore. Join us. Visit the website biggayfamily.com and taste this extraordinary, loving transformation. You will never go back to the old way of meeting men. I guarantee you that. And nobody in the program has ever was capable to outperform our successes with friendships, relationships, love affairs, and romantic love affairs. Nobody, not one person ever was able to beat and outperform and outcompete, if that is even a word, our process. So my friends, we are waiting for you. We have the most amazing men in the program. They are waiting for you right now. Don't waste your time. Come and join us. Visit the website biggayfamily.com and begin your beautiful transformation. Okay, my friends, say no to ghosting, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next podcast. Take care.